Right. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I know it's lunchtime for many of us, and appreciate joining the session, and appreciate Samia and the Scottish Testing Group for giving us the opportunity to talk about sustainability and particularly how some of these initiatives are shaping up in the retail industry. Um, r- just, uh, just a little bit, one moment. Yeah. A little bit about me. I'm Shiva in a short name. That's a long name, doesn't fill any of the forms in the UK. So Shiva would be the easiest way to call. Founder of QE Hub, quality engineering organization based in the UK. So I've been 19 years into testing, out of which for 15 years in the UK market, working for a lot of organizations such as Under Armour, Boots, Harrods, and Brown, UST, Gitanites. So as you can see, a lot of those names are into retail. So 13 years I spent in the retail industry, working closely with a lot of industry leaders, delivering transformation programs across retail, and around 5 years in the financial service industry, working with Experian as well for their data transformation initiative. Um, why sustainability matters in retail. Um, Interestingly, I got something here which will tell us why it matters. This is a recipe which all of you are familiar, right? So whenever we go down, have a little shopping in any of the retailers in the UK, we come across this particular piece of paper. And I don't know how many of us will take a look at that again when we go home or when we actually spend a little time to understand what is written in there. Also, I guess in my case, I don't even look at that. The moment I come home, I'll put it in the bin. And I think many of us does that. But how does that matters, right? Now, when it comes to retail as an industry, in the world, around 25% of carbon emission is contributed by retail as an industry, out of which 10% is specifically from the clothing retail. And this could be from many forms. It could be from the receipt being printed, the shelf label being printed, the invoices being sent over as a paper, the shipment which is going out from the warehouses, and the number of the number of time people shop and split that into smaller packages and everything. So what does that mean is there is a lot of untapped potential within the retail industry where we can make changes, and that will help us to cut down the overall carbon emission by marginal numbers. Now, if we focus on the operational aspect of it and the customer touch point, that is where the impact will be huge when you look at some numbers in the next slide. And there are a lot of digital innovation currently happening across the world with many retailers to bring down that carbon emission and the waste, so that we can have a better sustainable way of working within the retail industry and serving the customer without causing any problems around the regulatory compliance or the data which they are seeing every day. Now, when we go further, this will give you an idea how the retail is impacting the global environment. If you look at one part of this piece of paper, if you look at the overall impact of that, there are 3 trillion paper receipts being printed every year across the globe. That is equivalent to approximately 50 million trees being cut and approximately 10 billion gallons of water. And in the US, biggest market in the world, 1.5 billion pounds of waste purely because of the paper receipt. And UK is just behind that. That's the second largest market. 1.2 million. And the receipt protection, obviously this is paper, right? So the protection of that receipt equivalent to 334 millions of waste from the data which is collected last year. Now you can now certainly understand, every one of us, when we grab this piece of paper from the retailer every day as part of our shopping, we are directly contributing this to this waste. And I don't know how many of us will kind of take a look at that again, and is that really necessary for us to have that piece of paper? What is the alternative? That's the thinking process the retailers are applying. When it comes to delivery and shipment, we are all interested in sitting in our comfort zone and placing orders online, getting it to home as early as possible. Okay, if I get that today, I'll be happiest one, right? Now, what is that? The environmental impact over there is, 19 million tons of carbon dioxide emission in the world, only in 100 cities. Now you can imagine when it comes to the global contribution, and that is equivalent to 4.5 billions of pounds of coal being burned, or 2.5 million, approximately 2.5 million cars per year. That is equivalent to the contribution from that number. Post pandemic, it has major it became a major change in every customer's behavior, and there's a lot of research that shows that it boosted the shipment and shopping online boosted by 25%, which is contributing to approximately 100 million tons of carbon dioxide. So this is the impact with coming in from the delivery and shipment. Split shipment and multiple boxes, right? I found something online. It's a nice T-shirt. Okay, let me place the order. After some time, I found another stuff, which is another order. So all of these minor orders and the shipment which is coming on our way, which is actually causing more trouble to us and to the environment. And the faster delivery options offered by many of the organizations, retail organizations, that is, contributing to even higher carbon dioxide emission. And there is a study that clearly outlines that parcel volume will be hitting 800 billion by 2030. So this is a real problem which is touching every one of our life every single day, and we are not aware of it, or we are not interested in going that route to make a change over there. What are the key initiatives which we can bring onto the table to kind of cut down this waste and minimize the environmental impact? Now, this is where a lot of retailers started thinking in that direction from 2023-24 as part of their pledge to the climate and all. Some of the key initiatives over here is a digital receipt. Instead of grabbing a paper receipt from the store, why don't we switch over to the electronic receipt, so that the entire paper receipt can be cut down from the industry. There are some regulatory compliance in certain countries which doesn't allow us to do that right now, but retailers and sustainability advocates are campaigning against that regulatory compliance, particularly in France. You'll have to definitely give a piece of receipt to every customer. So that is still happening, but majority of the world, there's a golden opportunity for us to move away from that paper receipt and move on to the digital receipt. Second one is electronic shelf label. So you might have gone to any of the retailers and you've seen that the price is being displayed on the shelf on at Tesco, any of the UK retailer, and that is a small piece of paper which is getting printed pretty much every few days based on the price update, based on the promotion and everything. So how can we move away from that printed paper and put together a label, electronic shelf label over there that will allow us to showcase a lot more information to the customer, not only the price. So this particular initiative is specifically to cut down the paper, as well as giving us more marketing opportunity for the retailers. And third one is smart fulfillment, return in terms of BOP is Boris and ship from store. That means, buy online, pick up in store, buy online, return in store, and ship from store. So basically, this looked at a different approach of fulfillment of the customer orders when they place online orders. So there are organizations which started looking at these options and they ship the item from the nearest location to the customer. So basically, they brought in changes within their omni fulfillment journey to enable, okay, if I'm placing an order from Nottingham, and how can I get that item shipped from one of the Nottingham stores so that it will reduce the amount of travel to reach me and reduce the carbon dioxide emission over there. So that is basically the smart fulfillment comes into picture. And buy online, pick up from store. Some of you might have already done that, which is none other than the collect from store. So basically, you are actually going into the store and picking up one of your parcel. That would mean the specific journey to get that parcel over to you has been cut down. There's only one journey, which it goes from the warehouse to the store, that will contain multiple parcels in one go. So the amount of reduction is visible over there. Now return, rather than the customers shipping that back from their home, which is a single parcel, why don't you just go back to the store and return it there so that either they can add it to their existing set of inventory or collectively ship it back to the warehouse. So that's another smart movement which is already being done by a lot of retailers. Um, Reduce return via recommended sizing. This again, many of the online forums, online retailers, including Adidas and a couple of other retailers, you might have seen a little, size chart and recommended sizing, which is coming up over there. So what is that happening over there is they are looking at your shopping pattern from various orders which you have placed. They'll also collect your height and weight and all of those information and use a predictive mechanism to recommend a size for you. So there are people who buy a large and medium, then return one of that. So instead of going into that route, eliminate that number of times via number of items, number of shipments, and number of returns. Eliminate that and recommend a size based on the shopping history and the height and weight of the customer, so that you will be able to purchase the right item for you and eliminate a lot of that journey from there. And final one is consolidate shipment and delivery optimization. We normally, when we do shopping online, particularly in Amazon and all, there is a question that pops up: do you want this to be shipped together? Like giving an opportunity to take a decision. I don't want this to be coming on my way as individual packages. I would like this to be coming in my way as one single package, so that we are helping them to reduce the shipment over there. So these are some of the key initiatives which are touching the customer life every single day that comes into picture, and that help us to reduce the overall impact on the environment. Now, because we are all testers, why testing is non-negotiable here, or how can testing support all of these initiatives? So when it comes to these key initiatives, one of the important point is that it should be done with absolute accuracy and alignment to the customer journey and customer behavior. So rather than becoming a greenwashing risk or poor adoption or wasted resources, we should be looking at it from delivering this initiative with absolute accuracy. So we'll have to look at testing that against the audience alignment, whether we are picking it against the right set of audience, the accuracy of the data being served to the customer, the integrity, again, has to be evaluated in the right way. Operational quality is another aspect which we need to check and figure out whether that's right over there. Most importantly, regulatory compliance. So when we switch over from one working mechanism to another working mechanism, such as digital receipt, there are a lot of regulatory informations and compliance which we have to follow to enable that process works well, or making sure that we are all aligned to the local government's regulation. So that has to be tested specifically, and the environmental impact, which you can take the insights from the delivery and post-delivery analysis. And out of all of these, another one is, the insight and reporting accuracy of all of these initiatives. So those all have to be tested in detail to understand whether that initiative is aligned to the customer expectation, aligned to the business requirement, aligned to the sustainability initiative being put forward by the organization, and take course correction based on the outcome which we are identifying in testing. Um, Now, I'm taking a little deep dive into how some of these initiatives are normally being done in the retail industry. Specifically, when you look at digital receipt, right? So the first layer of this table give you an idea how many different systems we will have to coordinate in order to get that digital receipt delivered to us. For example, you go into a shop buying a t-shirt, it's point of sale. That's right in front of you. But that has to be connected to a CRM system in the backend to get your customer information there. Then the email platform, digital receipt platform, such as Salesforce Marketing Cloud, should be coming into picture to grab that payload, grab the name, grab the order details and all, create a template of an email from there, then push it through different communication channel, through email, through SMS, or if the organization has an app available, push that receipt onto the app. BA and reporting mechanism will come into picture on the email delivery, how many of them being opened, how many of them being deleted, or all of those insights are there. And most importantly, consent management. A customer who's receiving an email, and if they've unsubscribed from all the emails from an organization, we should be, we shouldn't be sending that again to their direction, because some of these email have potential opportunity for marketing as well. Now, when it comes to one of the example is Under Armour, where I personally work with them to deliver that digital receipt for 9 countries in the Europe and US and Canada. The most important stuff for us is, for every country, the translation, the way the QR code or barcode, everything to be presented, that requirements are varying. So for the tester, that present with a lot more challenges in terms of how the data is being presented, how it is actually, when you click on the link over there, whether that is getting navigated to the right page. When you open that email on Outlook or in Gmail or in iCloud email, whether that's all presenting with the right set of information, and marketing preference in the email. For example, if I'm a man who's interested in workout wear, that email with the receipt should all give us the marketing preferences or marketing initiatives around the workout wear. For a woman, it should be that particular, consent and that particular preference that they opted in. So that's all a high level set of, systems that is coming into picture. And we're looking at testing the accuracy of the data, the order information, the credit card information, the product information, shipment address, shipment method. All of those should be accurately presented over there without compromising the security of the data. Like, you shouldn't be putting all the credit card details over there. Entered only the last 4 digit of the credit card. Similarly, if you want to hide the address and instead put only part of the addresses there, it's all driven by the regulatory requirement from the particular country. Rendering and alignment, as I mentioned, multiple email clients, how does that reflect that email, whether that's all looking good. The user experience in terms of clarity, usability, and accessibility, all of those should be tested specifically over there. The marketing preference and personalization, we spoke about it. So this is an initiative where we'll be looking at, hundreds and thousands of combinations of test cases to ensure that the element in the testing focus is picked up and tested. Similarly, electronic shelf label, this interact with similar set of test systems, like pricing system. That is one of the most important things. So that should be the centralized repository for all your product, all your prices, and the price markdown and markup based on whatever that backend systems are pushing over to that. That electronic shelf label, which should be connected to that pricing system to periodically get that information automatically there. The inventory management system will push the available set of inventory numbers to that electronic shelf label. Point of sale should be reflected with the same set of information to make sure that whatever that electronic shelf label is showing as a price and availability, when you come into the point of sale, it should give us the same price, same markdown, same promotion. Communication gateways to handle all of those things, and content management system. If you are interested in adding a promotion or adding a marketing initiative to that electronic shelf label, content management system comes into picture. Similarly, the testing focus will look at all of these elements, whether the product name, product detail, product ID, everything came down, the price came down, the promotion, whatever markdown we have set up for that coming up there, the deal in UK term, the user experience, compliance, and any marketing initiative you want to propose. For example, if you buy one of these, two of these, you'll get another one free. So three for two. So that kind of offers and all should be populated there. Um, I think let me take a step back on the digital receipt side. There are many organizations that successfully launched it. Apple is one of the biggest names over there. Under Armour, which I've already covered. Lululemon is another example where they successfully initiated that process. And when it comes to electronic shelf label, Carrefour is just one success story, but there are more, which I'll cover it at the end. Now, when it comes to Boris, Boppies, and ship from store, similar architecture, but the number of system which is increasing, the complexity is increasing. E-com and omni-channel will comes into picture, and the payment platforms are coming into picture. So the integration between an order which is created in an omni-channel platform, when we pick up that order from the point of sale, the end-to-end journey of that order should be happening, right? Including the product information, the price information, and everything. Order management system and warehouse management system listed over there, which handles that order, push for the shipment, and warehouse will push for the package out from the journey. And inventory and CRM will pick up the product availability in connection with order management system. CRM will look at the customer's name, address, email, phone number, all of those information. Communication channels will push the communication out. For example, when we place an order from the omni channel, it will be like an order confirmation. And then there are multiple other emails coming on our way, such as order shipment email, out of delivery email, delivered email. Some of them are unwanted, but those are the communication which is coming out from the communication channel. And BA and consent management, as I said before, the way that information is being used and how the consent from the customer is being picked up by the system in order to deliver the right communication. And here, honestly, the testing focus is so high because it's an end-to-end journey, right? When you place an order and when you return that order, and when you place an order from omni-channel and return that in the store, you'll have to make sure that the price is correct, the total refund is correct, any deals and promotion which is applied at the beginning of the order creation process is reflected in the right fashion in the point of sale, and all of these tax calculation, which is pretty important and one of the biggest headaches when it comes to testing omni-channel and point of sale system, because when it comes to 9 countries in the Europe, right, every single country has different taxation rules. And when it comes to US and Canada, that become increasingly difficult because US, every state has different taxation rules. And there are certain products which are excluded from tax. For example, in the UK, when you buy a child item, a child clothing item, that is completely excluded from the tax. In Canada, when you buy when an adult go and buy a child size item, similarly, when a child go and buy a adult size item, there are taxation rules that exclude them from the taxes. So all of these combination should be applied in the omni-channel side. And when you do the return in the store, this calculation should pick up all of those reductions accordingly to give the right amount of price back to the customer. So the cross-channel data accuracy comes into picture there. The return and refund workflow comes into picture, such as some organization will allow us to do a return within 30 days. There are organizations that allow us to do the return within 90 days. So what is going to happen if someone comes into a store with an online order, which is done, well ahead of 90 days? What kind of refund option we have? Like offer them a gift card, etc., etc. So this is all, defined by the organization's refund workflow. The customer communications will come into picture again as a main item for testing. Boys Bop is shipped from store. There are a lot of names which you're already familiar, such as in UK, John Lewis, Next, in US, Under Armour, Target. They all done this very well, and it's massively reducing the amount of waste which is in the environment. And shipment and delivery, which follows a similar architecture, similar journeys, but one of the other point coming into picture is logistic management and the carrier integration, because as I said, we want to reduce the van on the road and the number of parcels. So the logistic workflow and warehouse management workflow should be accommodating that principles into practice and making sure that when you pick up an order for shipment, is that being picked up from the nearest store or nearest warehouse to the customer, so that requirement is met. And how can we track that? How can we make sure that the I think the missing parcels and all of this eliminated, so that we don't need to ship it again. So there are many workflows in there which the retailer is implemented to ensure lesser number of packages or consolidated set of packages, or in a way split a shipment so it will go from the nearest location to the customer. Amazon is a very well success story. I mean, I do quite a lot of shopping in Amazon, and they always ask me a question whether you want to kind of do it, do the delivery combined with other steps on another day and all. So these are some of the deep dive into the sustainability initiatives and how testing is supporting that. So when you look at that, all of these from a requirement perspective is pretty cool to write it. Okay, we want to do it this way. But most of the time, these testing focus element, which is written on all of these initiatives, will go wrong massively, so that it will end up not giving the right amount of experience to the customer, or we'll end up in a situation where we're not following all the rules in a particular country. So that will all backfire in a different way than what we imagine. And the final bit is, when we look at the retail landscape right now, the changes are being made, and it's being very visible to us. So I've already covered that digital receipt point. A lot of organizations right now kind of offers that as an option to us, to the customer, and it's our choice whether we want to go in that direction or not. In terms of electronic shelf label, I think there are further points written down there. I specifically picked up the UK retailers so that we will be very close to them, right? So Morrison's has definitely have a plan to implement 10.8 million labels across 497 supermarkets. That's a massive amount of change. as there are already 700K labels in 250 Express store. It's not done yet, but they are in the process of doing that. Coop, they've done the deployed labels into 700 stores, but I haven't seen one in my store here. So I'm still trying to figure out where they've done that. But there are 1,600 stores by end of this year. So it's just still progressing. Currys, obviously 150 stores, they have done the electronic shelf label, but they are expanding that rollout based on the success. And hopefully by end of this year, they'll be completing it across all their stores. And Waitrose is also joining the list to make sure that they are putting that electronic shelf label and reducing the paper waste, as well as they're also joining the list of digital receipt. And Tesco is another example. They started offering the receipts into the app. So you have an option. Now, what do those all mean to us is when we go to the store tomorrow, you have an option. You have a choice to make whether you want to grab that receipt or not. Simply press that button. I don't need the receipt. When you're buying a packet of fruits and a milk, why do you want the receipt over there? You don't need it, right? And if there is something which you certainly need it, you can very well opt for the electronic receipt, and that will help get all the information into our inbox. Though the electronic receipts are still, I would say that considerably sustainable because it's reduced around 40 to 50% of carbon emission because of the paper and electronic label. But the thing is, we can make that change. And I've started doing that regularly. I don't pick up my receipts whenever I can. And wherever there's an option, I used to ask them, hey, do you have electronic email receipt? So why don't you send it to me rather than you printing one? So that's pretty much for me. It's any question from anyone?
Thank you so much for the really enlightening talk, Shiva. There's so much that at least I was not aware of behind the scenes. What happens, in terms of carbon footprint when you print
Mm-hmm.
a receipt and such like. So it's been very, very informative. I'll check with our panelists if there's any questions you'd like to ask. Yeah, Doug, please go for it.
I'm reaching to the wrong part of the screen to unmute myself because it's the opposite side from Teams. Thank you for that illuminating insight. The question I have is about how you think the technology will be adopted. Do you think that the technology itself behind things like electronic price labeling is not the problem? The problem is how the consumer will react to how that is used. We've already seen some controversy, particularly in the United States, about dynamic pricing changes.
Yeah.
It's a hot day and the price of Coca-Cola goes up 20 pence a tin at Tesco. Do you think that consumer backlash is the bigger challenge than plugging in the displays?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think the biggest example here is when I've been to the NRF in New York, there are many organizations offering that tech on electronic shelf label. And the amount of information we can put onto that label, that makes it very interesting. You're bringing in absolute clarity into that label over there, saying that, okay, you know what, this was the price. You can bring in the changes of the price compared to what yesterday or what is the price today and what is the promotion. If you want to bring in a bit of information around the similar product, all those can be brought in there. It's a dynamic set of information which you can bring onto this. So it's up to the retailer. How do you present that information with absolute clarity so that you're not getting that question back from the customer? And that is why majority of these organizations are trialing it out taking that insight from that and taking a decision to wider rollout, right? So in my view, the customers, including me, are open to the change as long as it is presented with the right, accurate set of information. And similarly, another one which is kind of, I was thinking in my mind, when you want to go for electronic receipt, right, digital receipt, obviously you have to give away your email address. That is one of the biggest, point where people will be a little reluctant to do that. But what you need to tell them is, your data is secure. This is not being used by any other mechanism. Unless you opt in for the marketing initiative, you're not going to get marketing initiative from through. The responsibility reside with the retailers to bring in that level of confidence within the customer that your data is secure. That will enable that level of change. So I guess, when it comes to that particular initiative, organization like Under Armour, Apple and all, they've done a very good job, because they have a set of content management system in the backend that only filter out that preferences and push that right amount of email. Once you unsubscribe to that, the data is being picked up on a daily basis, and another email is not being sent to that. So it's a responsibility of the retailer to bring in accuracy and confidence in the customer. And if you manage to do that, this is easily achievable.
Yeah. It's an interesting answer. Thank you. I think what a big takeaway from that is that, at the end of the day, the retailers are in a competitive marketplace with each other, and the ones who can make the best use of the technology in a way that their customers go, I'm going to go here because I like what I see about extra information on signage and stuff. That will actually be a draw in for people. Yeah. There's one more thing I wanted to chime in with just before I shut up again, which is that if you are getting paper receipts, anybody in the audience, out of the till, you cannot put them in the paper recycling bin.
Really?
People don't seem to realize this. No, thermal till paper has got chemicals in it, and if you put it in the paper recycling, it causes problems at the recycling plant. So put it in the household waste bin.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty new information for me, because I see people throwing away randomly in any of the bin they see, and that makes me a little worried. Right? I don't pick it up. Why do we want to pick it up as a receipt? We don't use it unless you want to do a return. And I think particularly the clothing retail, that is where you do a bit more return, right? So that is where you have a greater option to go for electronic one.
Thank you, mate.
Fantastic. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, absolutely fascinating bits of information coming out. And I haven't seen any questions from the audience yet, but I wanted to kind of reflect upon the points that you mentioned earlier about how reducing the errors in that kind of purchase journey, how significantly it helps the whole chain, in terms of avoiding the and reducing the carbon print. You mentioned accessibility, usability. I think testing plays a specifically important role in avoidance of those errors that could lead to those additional calls from the customers, the follow-up. It's a big chain that starts with errors and kind of dissatisfaction in a customer journey. Are there any additional tips you would like to give to the testers? I'd like to think majority of our audience come from test and quality engineering background. Is there anything specific you'd like to share with our audience, please, Ewan?
Yeah, I think for the program which I've done, unfortunately, it was test driven. The requirement itself was test driven. That is the bad bad phase where we were in, right? Okay, we have a set of requirement. The requirement is pretty simple. I want the sale receipt to be sent as email. That's it, done. Now, what information of that should be there? And it was the responsibility of the test team and drive it from their perspective. Say that, okay, you know what? When you want to send that email as a receipt as an email, what content you want to fit in there? Are you going to do all of these information, or is there specific information you need to bring? That clarity in the requirement, something we have to fight it and take it out from the wider team. That one liner was not really helpful at all. And then it comes to the localization, and that is where it's certainly important because of the cultural aspect of it. And when you print it or when you send out a receipt in, say, France, Germany, all of those countries, that language over there should be perfect to align with their cultural sentiments and all of those localization translation standards. So when it comes to testing, I guess, I've learned a little bit of Spanish and German just to test that, because I want to make sure that we are talking to the right team to get the translation done. And one of the good thing we've done is, rather than going with a random translation from the Google, we specifically requested for support from the local store colleague. They are the retail store operation team, to get that translated for us. So we will test the template to make sure all the content in there matches with the local sentiment. So that is another good thing. I guess, as you rightly said, we have a larger role to play, because we are the one giving the sign off finally. Okay, everything looked good in terms of compliance and content accuracy and everything. And that comes in with a um, lot more effort in terms of testing. So the effort estimation which we put together should accommodate all of these aspects into that. So obviously, we all working in an environment where it's a race against time, right? So when it's happened, there is a chance that the quality will be kind of compromised. And when we are driving the program, it's our responsibility that the quality is not compromised at all. The right amount of time bought in for the testing, and bring that business users or store operations or omni-channel expert closer to that journey from the day one, so that we will get the outcome what we want.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing all of that insight. I fully agree. I think there's such a key thing that we need to do when you double check the requirements. I encourage all testers out there to absolutely take this
Yeah.
message to fight those battles. You're not just fighting for the kind of quality,
Yeah.
you're actually doing this for the planet. So yeah, thanks very much, Eva.
Exactly.
Brian, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how important do you think usability testing is in making sure that the customers actually adopt these different behaviors that are necessary to implement this?
It's one of the main thing. I would say, go back to the question. It's about bringing in the confidence within the customer, right? So they are, particularly, let me call out from the recipe which I worked on. Within the different countries in EMEA and US, the people are very well versed with the content what they see within the paper receipt. So they have a clear idea. Okay, this is how my item details are going to come in. This is where the price is coming in. All of the things. So when we translate that into an electronic form, we will have to kind of make sure the same amount of the usability or the view, so that we are not confusing people. We are giving them the same set of information in a electronic mode, and that level of testing, which we have to do it using the requirement analysis and requirement tools that we follow, as well as the usability testing tools that you have on the market, to ensure the level of confusion can be avoided as much as possible. So the adoption will be more when the customers are not confused. So it's pretty important when it comes to the right combination of um, usability, localization, translation, everything put in place. It's pretty important to adopt it better, because we don't want to see a customer complaint coming on my way saying that, you know what, you send me a receipt, I can't understand how this calculation is happening, how my deals are applied, how my rewards is picked up. I think that's more of a backfiring situation, right? And more importantly, the regulatory compliance part of that receipt, whatever the mandate information government is putting together, which is in the paper receipt, should come in here as well, so that the audit and all of these regulatory checks, which is done by every country, that will reflect in the right way. To dig in a little bit more details, there's a concept called fiscalization that happens only in certain countries in EMEA, such as Spain, I believe Germany, and there's, I think, France is pushing forward to that. Estonia is pushing forward to that. So fiscalization, none other than the presenting all the transaction details in a barcode or a QR code, so that the government authority can anytime come and grab the information from that QR code. So it's mandatory to have that QR code presented in the receipt. Now, when it comes to electronic receipt, all of those same requirement applies over here. We need to make sure that whatever the content of that fiscalized QR code is transferred from the backend system to the email template, and it comes into the customer email, so that we are covered from a regulatory compliance perspective. So there's quite a lot to test, but usability will bring in more confidence in the way they adopt.
Thank you. And really, totally second that view, that aspects of how the user feels and that user experience is incredibly important to sustainability in a way of all the resources that get consumed when a customer is unhappy. You can avoid all of that. So no, that's great insight. And as Meeta Dikshit has mentioned in the chat, we as testers need to carry the best practices, lessons learned, and knowledge from one client to another. This will further build environment-friendly systems. I think that's a great shout, Asmita. If we can kind of bring that learning from all the spaces we get involved in, I think we are essentially contributing to systems becoming less error-prone, and indeed, it leads to more eco-friendly systems. So that's a great point as well. So that's brilliant. I don't know if there's any more questions or thoughts from anybody else. I think this one that's come through in Q&A. This one from Richard Adams. Given email storage has a carbon footprint cost, how do we limit moving the environmental cost? Shiva, if you wanted to address that.
Yeah, I think the email receipt has still got a carbon footprint. As you know, it's electronic and we are consuming all the electricity and all the stuff. But the studies have shown that compared to paper receipt, is bring down the carbon footprint by around 60%. So that is one positive element over there. But there are enhancements happening to the overall templated email receipt and all, to make sure it goes very light, not with a lot of content and not with a lot of attachments or anything. Let me take you to an example. But one of the email receipts I've seen is that there is an email body with all the information. Then there is an attachment with a PDF that has the same information, and we don't need that. So there are changes happening in the way the templates are being created to go very lightweight and reduce the impact on the environment. But again, it's all long way to go. We'll have to take the first step from moving from receipt to electronic receipt, and then bring in that improvement one by one. So we recently done a change in Under Armour to completely revoke the previous set of templates and bring in new set of templates which are very lightweighted. So it's happening.
So that's very good to hear, and thanks Shiva for that, and a great question, Richard. Hope you've had your answer from that response. I guess in the interest of time, given we have 5 minutes left, we'll look to kind of bring the session to a close. Just a massive thank you to Shiva Prasad for delivering this session. It's really been really thought-provoking and got so many kind of ideas. Even as I was hearing you speak, I was thinking of aspects that I could do individually in my personal life, as well as professionally as a tester, what else I could do to help the cause of environment. And indeed, thank you to everybody who's joined us today. I want to take a moment to promote our next kind of event, next webinar. It's from one software attribute to another. So the next one from us will be on the topic of accessibility. So it's a topic I quite care about and close to my heart. So I'll just share my screen briefly to tell you a little bit about it. So this is going to be held on 14th of May in a similar manner as this one, that it'll be a lunch and learn session. It'll be delivered by David Lucas, who is very very well-known expert in accessibility from Dig Inclusion. So please do join us to understand how to conduct a mini accessibility audit. This will help you check accessibility on any given kind of web interface in a very quick manner, something, as you know, is important from a regulatory point of view, but also thinking about it from user experience point of view and inclusion. It's an incredibly important aspect of delivery. So hope you'll consider joining us, because David is going to give some really good tips and tricks on how to run through it very quickly and kind of get your wins from accessibility point of view. So please join us for that. The registration link will be out soon. So thanks very much for everybody for your attention and time. And on that note, wishing you all a lovely afternoon, and yeah, have a great day. Thanks a lot, Shiva, and thanks everybody.
Yeah.